Morning, guys. Morning. Good morning. I hope you guys are having an amazing morning. Mine's going pretty good. Welcome to another Monday. I'm going to try to get back into consistently updating on at least Mondays. I am not ready to commit to 3 days a week again, you guys, but Mondays, I feel like that gives me a whole week to get a video recorded. So that's pretty good. We have a new member of the team here. It's so cute. I've actually had this mug for a little while, but it says it's dangerous to go alone. Drink this. It's from a video game, and I actually got it for my husband, but I typically use it more than he does. He has specific coffee mugs that he drinks his morning coffee out of every single morning. So yeah. I finished all 4 books that I got for my birthday. And since I did a video on the 4 books that I got for my birthday, I wanted to follow up with what I thought of each of those books that I got for my birthday. Because it's one thing to do a haul. Everybody wants you to follow up on that haul. What did you think of them? And I will say 2 of them I really enjoyed. 2 of them were a bit disappointing. And we're going to get into that. Let's start with the highlight. Let's start with my favorite book of the 4 books I got for my birthday. And this should be no surprise because I have done nothing but rave for all of 2024 about this author. Phenomenal. I cannot believe I'm just discovering her work this year. In the year of our Lord, 2024, I am just discovering Abby Jimenez's work. I read this series in exact backwards order. I started with Just for the Summer. It was my of course I can't think of when I read it. I think it was April I read it, and then I read the next book, which is Yours Truly, and then I finally got around to the first book in the series. But they are very standalone. You do not have to read all 3 of them. But I loved Just for the Summer so much, I wanted to read the rest of them. Now, Yours Truly, I was able to get on Book Outlet for $5.99. But I could not find this book. It wasn't at my library. It wasn't anywhere. So I got it for my birthday. It's Part of Your World. It's technically the first book in the Part of Your World series. But like I said, all 3 of these books are pretty standalone. I think in the 3rd book, Just for the Summer, had the most intertwined storyline, but it still really wasn't even that intertwined. But this is the story of Daniel, who you find out some little trinkets on Daniel in Just for the Summer, the 3rd book, but in this book, he is just being introduced, and he is the mayor of this small town in Minnesota, and his grandparents have owned and worked this B&B forever. And he meets, why can I not think of the female's name? Alexis. Alexis is a doctor. She comes from an extremely distinguished medical family, and she's expected to quickly become the chief of surgery at this major hospital in Minneapolis, I believe it is, that she works in. And she has high hopes and a lot of pressure and expectation on her. Well, her car breaks down in this tiny little town that Daniel is the mayor and bed and breakfast owner, and he helps her. They have a one-night stand fling because they're immediately attracted to each other. He's a bit younger than her, I think 10 years or maybe a little bit less, 8 years. That's sticking in my head for some reason. And she takes off that morning after seeing his ID to see how old he is and freaks out. And they do communicate and have a casual thing. But there's a lot going on in Alexis's life. She's going through a divorce that has been very messy. Lives in this $1 million probably home that her ex is trying to get from her. Her family wants her to become the chief of surgery. There is a lot going on. And Daniel is an escape for her. He makes amazing grilled cheeses, has crazy kooky neighbors in this little town that he's the mayor of, and she falls in love with him, but she definitely thinks he does not fit into her lifestyle. And so this is very much like two very different lifestyles or worlds, if you would, colliding, and it was phenomenal. Highly, highly recommend Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Then we read Collide by, I'm probably going to mess this up, but I think it's Bal Cabra. Yeah, Bal Cabra. And I enjoyed this. I didn't love it as much as I really had hoped I would. I wasn't obsessed with it like I was Unsteady or The Graham Effect or some other hockey romances that I've read, but it was cute, it was fun, it was enemies to lovers, absolutely. This is quintessential enemies to lovers. I enjoyed it. I would give it, I believe I gave it 4 stars. Let me double check that information. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. All these books, I swear I remember them. People always ask me, they're like, bro, there's no way. I'm at 114 books for the year so far. There's no way that you remember all these books. I do remember them. Every single one of them. You can ask me a single book that I read this year. I can tell you the plot, and I can tell you what I probably rated it. So, let's start to the disappointing ones. The 2 fantasy reads were the ones that really left me wanting, which sucks, but it's okay. It's okay. The Sword of Kaigan. Kagan, not quite sure, but it is by M.L. Wang. This almost makes me want to cry, the fact that I did not like it or love it. This much of the book is amazing. Incredible. The world building. I see why people compared it to Avatar. It was really good. This much of the book is fighting. Probably majority one battle. Easily 150, 200 pages of this was a solitary battle. Very military, very strategy based, very fight scene oriented. This much of the book, probably not even that much, this much of the book left you to your conclusion. And the conclusion left you wanting. There were some great moments, but I was having to chew through way too much to get to those great moments. I didn't want to have to read almost 100 pages of just lore dumping and world building that wasn't necessary just for an epic character moment. It became tedious, and I nearly didn't finish that one. I did finish it. I give myself a pat on the freaking back for finishing that beast, because I did not even finish this one. This one was my, I don't know, probably only my 5th or 6th DNF of the year. And that's The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. You guys, I could not care less about this character. The best way I can describe it is Kieran. If you have read the Stormlight Saga, it is very Stormlight-esque if the only story is Kaladin's. Because the only main character in this really is Kieran. He's a slave. It's told by 2 different characters, Kieran himself and his prisoner. Like the person imprisoning him. His imprisoner, if you would. And it's very jumpy on the timelines because he is telling his life story from a certain point, and the imprisoner is like, that's not where it started. It started way back here in the past. So he starts telling Kieran's life story, but from a younger point, like how he got So Kieran starts his life story on the slave blocks, I believe, or like at the slave trading place, where the imprisoner starts the story with his like father and mother. And I say that in air quotes because it's a real confusing setup with that. But because of the jumping, and they're both telling the same story from different timelines, it can get a little bit confusing in that, is this happening here or happening here? Also, I just didn't care. I read half the book. That's like my kind of mandatory, I won't stop until I read. I believe it's cut into multiple parts, and I think I read all of part 1 or something like that before I was like, I don't want to continue reading this. My TBR is long. I have incredible books that I want to read. I'm not putting myself through this. I'm not doing it. And I did DNF The Ruin of Kings. And then I was able to go into my Libby app and cancel the hold for the book 2, and I opened up a slot for something to jump in, because I always have 10 holds. I am a girl who has 10 holds at all times on my Libby app. Like, I never have space to place a hold. This week, I did go to the actual library, which I haven't done in a while, and I picked up 2 brand new releases. They're only 7-day books, so I was like, can I read both of these books? Plus, what I'm listening to on the audiobook, I listen to the audiobook while I'm driving, and so that's typically like separate. I don't typically, I count my audiobooks, but like that's not generally the book that's checked in on Goodreads as reading. As I complete it, I mark it read on Goodreads, but if you follow my Goodreads, what I'm reading at the moment is typically my physical book or Kindle book that I'm reading. I digress. I was like, can I finish both of these books in 7 days and have time to finish reading the audiobook I was currently reading? The answer is yes, because they're not due till Monday. Well, technically today, but I'm filming this on Saturday, so they were due on Monday. And I've already finished this one. She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. I've read other Mary Kubicas. This is probably my favorite. I gave it 5 stars. I really freaking liked that book. Yeah, way to go, Mary Kubica. That was my favorite that I've read of hers, and one of the better thrillers that I've read this year, because I told you guys Ruth Ware kind of let me down with the one that I just read last month of hers, One Perfect Couple. It just was not great. I don't know. I think I'm going to quit reading as much on my cruises, because every time I take a book on a cruise, I seem to not enjoy it. I find it hard to get into. And I don't know if that is just my scenery, but that's a video for another day, because I'm taking another cruise next summer for my daughter's Sweet 16. The second book I'm going to have done, hopefully today, if not tomorrow, Sunday, is The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. And I am a quarter of the way through this book, and I'm enjoying it. I've never read a Catherine Center book that I know of. I read, like I said, about 150 books, 100 to 150 books a year. So the name isn't jumping out at me. I may have read something years ago by her, but the name is not jumping out at me. So far I like it. It is about a screenwriter who goes to LA to work with her dream collaboration screenwriter, and she finds out he's a super big cynic. He tried to write his first rom-com. That's her specialty. And she's there to help him edit it, and it is awful. It is terrible. It is a disaster, and they are pretty sure going to be enemies to lovers. So enjoying that book a lot, and I'll have it done by Monday. So yeah, the next video you guys will get from me, is it almost time? I don't know. I can't bring up my calendar and see you guys behind my stand. I think it's almost time for my everything that I read in August, because Monday, when this video goes up, will already be the 26th. So yeah, the following video will be everything that I read in August. I may do another rapid fire on my top shelf books as well. My top shelf is mostly like book talk style books or rom-coms, romances, hockey romances. So I don't have all of those books though. Those books are the ones that I loan out the most. I typically don't loan out my fantasy novels because most of them are hardback, special edition, sprayed edges, or whatever. They just make beautiful covers of fantasy novels. So typically, if I'm loaning out books, it's my sports romances, my paperbacks that, are $12, $13 at Target. I don't really give that care about them if something happens to them. But yeah, so I might do a rapid fire video on those soon too. But I love you guys so much. Thanks for joining me on this wonderful Monday. It has been really cool out. I'm excited to enjoy hot coffee again. I hope it is a beautiful, cool pre-fall weather where you're at as well. And I will see you guys next week sometime. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing. I appreciate you. And later.